Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. It's March. The fateful month has arrived, but Purdue is not where it wants to be here as the critical month begins. After 2 losses last week, questions are everywhere about the Boilermakers. They're now 22-7 on the season, just 12-6 in Big Ten play. We're going to dive into all of that here today, looking at what's gone wrong from the past week, what's next for Purdue, what can be fixed, all of that and much more here on the show today. If you're not already, be sure that you're following the show on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. There's so much to talk about with Purdue. We're doing it on a daily basis over there. Come join the conversation. You can always send in questions for the show. Do it on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. You can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. We'll be here throughout the rest of the season, all the way into the summer and beyond, talking all things Purdue basketball, talking all things Purdue football. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. A really rough week for Purdue. You can send me over to Old Takes Exposed, because last week on the show, I said that I thought Purdue was playing well, entering the right time of the year, because Purdue did a lot of really good things. 3 weeks ago now, when it won at Nebraska, it was really good for the majority of that game. It was excellent in a win at Iowa where it dominated the Hawkeyes. The Michigan game was what it was, but then Purdue stomped Indiana, and you felt pretty good about where Purdue was going entering the month of March, entering the last 2 weeks of the regular season. But Michigan State comes into Mackey Arena, 76-74 Spartans win to hand Purdue its 4th loss of the season in Mackey Arena. And then Purdue goes over to Ohio State for a rather listless performance, losing 82-74, to really get us to the point now where you pick the term, disappointing, underwhelming, whatever it may be, it describes this regular season for Purdue. Purdue did not rank itself preseason number 1 in the country, but it very much embraced those expectations, as it should have. When you're in that position, you want to embrace that. You want your guys, your coaches, your players to be embracing that, to embrace the target on their backs, to embrace those expectations. But instead, it hasn't been that type of season. Basketball is a tricky sport, mind you, because so much of the season gets remembered by what happens in a single elimination 68-team tournament where truly anything can happen. Bad seasons can be turned around. Good seasons can be deemed failures. It is a cruel, cruel event. But to lose 4 times at Mackey Arena, to not get a triple bye in the Big Ten tournament, which is almost impossible for Purdue now, that's really far off from where everyone wanted this team to be. Players, coaches, fans alike. It wasn't what Purdue wanted. And as we enter this month, just none of this is going the way Purdue wanted. Purdue does not look like the team that it has shown the ability to be, and the team that it very publicly wanted to be. The Michigan State game continued what we've seen far too frequently, and that was a lack of execution and the inability to do the little things well. In that game alone, Purdue commits a 5-second count on an inbound beneath the basket. 3 times in that game, Purdue fouled a Michigan State jump shooter. 9 turnovers led to 19 Michigan State points. And then Purdue goes to Ohio State, and you just see the limitations get fully exposed. And that is a term I hate using. It is a very overused term. It is classic, ESPN, Stephen A. Smith overreaction, but there's no other way to put it. Ohio State got whatever it wanted against Purdue. Over 1.4 points per possession for the Buckeyes is that's a number that you see in bye games. That's a number you see when you just have one of those out-of-body shooting nights. That's not a number you see when you're playing against a really good team. And Ohio State only made 9 3-pointers in the game. But Purdue just could not defend Ohio State. And I'll give you this. Talent has never been the issue at Ohio State. But Purdue made an average Ohio State team look really, really good. And as we start to dive into this, the center position has just become such an issue for Purdue that I'm not sure where Purdue goes with this, because Oscar Clough's durability is really starting to come into question. Matt Painter talked about this after the Michigan State game, and it really got me thinking. And it's something I probably should have noticed beforehand, but he mentioned that Oscar Clough was a little gassed after that first half, and that was partially why Purdue went to so much of the small lineup in the second half, because early in that game, Oscar Clough was awesome. The first 4 minutes of that game, Oscar Clough was incredibly impactful. He was the difference early on, and Purdue getting off to a great start. And then against Ohio State, it was more of the same. Now, against Ohio State, it really came to the forefront, though, because Clough picks up 3 fouls in the first half. One of them was an offensive foul. Was he going for a rebound, I think? The other 2, though, were fouls where he's beyond the 3-point line checking a defender on a hedge. And I'm not a basketball expert here. I don't want to try to sound like I'm some X's and O's guru, because I'm not, but to me it feels like that's a position you get in when you're just tired. When you're moving a little bit slower and you find yourself out of position to where you just check the defender and you pick up an easy foul. But you go back to the Illinois game on January 24th, and ever since then, Oscar Clough has only played more than 22 minutes in a game once, and that was the overtime win at Nebraska when he played 29. That's an issue for Purdue, because when Oscar Clough is on the floor, Purdue does some really good things. I believe that's one of the most efficient lineups in the country. Purdue's starting 5 is. I know it was for a while. I don't know how much that has changed, but you look at the plus-minus numbers, and again, I use these stats too much probably, but it's glaring. He's a +7 against Ohio State, but he only plays 19 minutes before fouling out. He's positive against Michigan State. Purdue did some great things with him on the floor. He helped Purdue get off to a great start. Real energy. But when he's not on the floor, it puts Purdue in a compromising position, because right now it just is what it is with Daniel Jacobson. There have been some flashes this year of a player with real potential. You look at his size, his sheer height, his length, his shot blocking ability. There's a lot to like about the future for Daniel Jacobson. He's a real threat in the lob game. He's been awesome at times there. He's been really impactful getting those lobs and finishing. But the flashes aren't always there, and this is now 3 games in a row where when that substitution occurs at the start of the game, the offense just really bogs down, because against Michigan State, Purdue gets off to a wonderful start, and then that substitution occurs, and by the next media timeout, Michigan State has the lead. Against Ohio State, it was different. It wasn't the same thing, because Jack Benner came in first. Jack Benner came in at that media timeout because Trey Kaufman-Wren had already picked up a foul. And then right after Clough checks that guy, Daniel Jacobson comes in. He was already at the scorer's table. But Purdue went with Oscar Clough for 7 minutes at the start. Purdue led 16-9 when that substitution occurred. And then Purdue just goes ice cold. I want to say for 7 minutes, something around there. The only basket it scored was on Fletcher Lawyer's transition 3. It just bogs Purdue's offense down, and Purdue isn't able to keep the opponent buried a little bit after it gets off to a really good start. It is what it is. It can't all be Daniel Jacobson. That's not fair. That's not how basketball works. But man, 14 minutes this week, a minus 24. It feels like he's hit the proverbial freshman wall. There's a lot to like about his future. It would be very unwise to give up on him at this point in time. But for right now, it's not working out the way Purdue hoped it would. But Purdue can't not play him, because when you look at the way this roster is built, sure, you can go small and you can play with Trey Kaufman at the 5 and Jack Benner at the 4, but then you're asking a ton of Trey Kaufman. And this brings back the problem that Purdue had last season, where Trey Kaufman is playing that 5 spot. He's battling with bigger dudes. He's going to pick up fouls, and that's not a spot Purdue can afford to be in. Purdue's getting too much from him on the offensive end. It's running too much of its offense through him for him to just be on the floor. You look at what Trey Kaufman did against Michigan State, where he has 10 points, 6 rebounds, dishes out 7 assists. He was huge there. And against Ohio State, he goes 8 for 12 from the floor, picks up 9 rebounds. He's playing really well. You can't afford for him to be on the bench in foul trouble. But when you play in that small lineup, you're asking a lot of him, and you're giving up a ton rebounding-wise. And it was perfectly exemplified in that Ohio State game, where Trey Kaufman gets some buckets, and he gets Purdue within 7, but then Ohio State gets 3 chances on offense. The third shot goes up. It's a 3-pointer, and it's back to 10, and Purdue wasn't able to claw back into the game. It was never able to put a ton of pressure on Ohio State. It wasn't able to get it to 4. It wasn't able to get it to 3. It stayed 6 points, 7 points, 10 points. Ohio State kept Purdue at an arm's length. It is what it is. It's just part of the issue with this team. It's part of the limitation that this team has. I don't know what the solution is, because it's March. You can't add to your roster at this point. The 2 centers just have to give Purdue more than they have right now. They have to. The Big Ten tournament and NCAA tournament coming up aren't exactly great games for players who are looking for more rest, but everyone else is too. That's kind of the equalizer there. You get into the Big Ten tournament, everyone else is playing a bunch too. So, it is what it is, but for this team to get to where it wanted to be, atop the rankings as a 1 seed to win the Big Ten, the center position needed to be a position of strength. And we've talked about it on this podcast a few times this year. It's coming to the forefront in a different way right now, but the center position is not a strength for Purdue right now. It is bringing you back to some of the problems that existed last season with Purdue, with a really high reliance on Trey Kaufman. Because the one thing with Purdue's 2 centers, too, is they're not guys that you can really run a ton of stuff for. Oscar Clough isn't a great back-to-the-basket scorer. His numbers on the year are really good because he gets so many second-chance points, just dump-offs around the rim for dunks or layups. But he's not someone who's going to dribble into a post move and go score the way Trey Kaufman does, the way Travion Williams, Zach Edey, Caleb Swanigan, you name it, did. That's not his game as much. And the same with Daniel Jacobson. He's really good at catching lobs, but he's not someone who goes and gets you a lot of points just by throwing the ball to him and getting out of the way. That's not his game at this point in his career. There's not a solution on this roster right now aside from those 2 kind of getting right. And look, as I've said, it was a fair, rational bet for Purdue to bank on that improvement at center being a real difference maker. that it makes all the sense in the world. That rebounding problem could not be as big of a problem again this year for Purdue to get to where it once wanted to get to. But right now the center position just isn't delivering at the level Purdue must have it deliver at to get back into the level that it wants to play at. And the frustration has reached a boiling point, and of course that's pun intended, and I get it. The expectations were high. They were embraced by the team. The fans were all in on it, and it's just really spiraling. It's very vitriolic right now. There is a lot of frustration everywhere. I understand it. You listen to Matt Painter's press conference on Sunday, and it's evident. It's evident. It's very evident. I think some of the personal stuff gets to be a bit much. Attacking how much the players care, how much the team cares. I think that's a bridge too far. But right now it's not what Purdue wants. It's not where Purdue wants to be. It's not where this team is capable of being. Purdue needs the best from Braden Smith right now, and it didn't really get it this week. It's not like he was awful, mind you, but the 4 turnovers against Michigan State, he has a couple really rough ones in there, and that doesn't include the 5-second count that's deemed a team turnover. He goes 7 for 19 at Ohio State. He was really hunting for his shot. It just wasn't going down enough for him. There's only so much you can do about shots not going down, but Purdue needs, in this month of the year, in March, you need your best players to be stars. And when you have a former first-team All-American on your roster, you need them to be that level. You need them to be that type of a player. And Braden Smith hasn't been an All-American this past week. He's been really good this season, but Purdue needs him to hit that next level. I'm not doing the Twitch stream stuff. I'm not doing the podcast stuff. I'm not doing the Allen Iverson Instagram story stuff. But right now, Purdue needs the best from him. The public perception stuff's getting pretty crazy here. I don't know that I've seen something like this where it's almost like a little feud between the fan base and Braden Smith. It's toxic. It's toxic on every side. No one's hands are clean in it, but it's not well. It's not well. This isn't going in a positive direction here at a critical junction. And of course, Purdue's limitations defensively are what they are. I don't mean to bury that here. It's very real. You saw it against Ohio State. You saw it against Michigan State. Purdue does not have any stellar perimeter defenders on this team. That's become more and more clear over time. But Purdue is letting guys get into the lane far too easily. Some of Purdue's guards are better than others out on defense, but there is not a great lockdown perimeter defender on this team. There's not a No-Gel Eastern. There's not a Chris Kramer. There's not an Eric Hunter, who was a really nice defensive player individually at Purdue. And when Purdue goes small, there is no semblance of rim protection on the floor. Again, a problem from last year. Teams scored at will in the lane on Purdue last year, and when Purdue goes small, you see that problem come out a lot again. This isn't a team that's going to be some sort of defensive juggernaut, but it can be a lot better than it is right now. Purdue has to find a way to play defense without fouling, because Ohio State goes to the free throw line 32 times, goes 25 of 32 at the free throw line. Purdue racks up 23 fouls in that game. I mean, you're not putting yourself in a position to win, and that's everybody. Purdue gets beat and then it fouls. Purdue is inside and it's out of position, so it's fouling on contests. It's everything. Matt Painter lamented it after the game. It's not just one guy. It's the entire team. It's the bigs. It's the guards. Jakari Harris picks up a couple of rough fouls against Michigan State on closeouts. Fletcher Lawyer fouls a 3-point shooter in that game. it's everyone. It is not as easy as just a one-player fix. That's doable. When it's the whole team, I don't know. And I don't know schematically about Purdue's defense. I know it requires on a lot of help, and it's very designed to keep the ball out of the lane because it doesn't have a ton of great perimeter defenders. Purdue builds its scheme to be aware of that. Like, this isn't news. This isn't new. But Purdue has had teams that haven't had a bunch of great perimeter defenders, that haven't been ultra athletic, everyone's favorite buzzword. Purdue's had plenty of teams that aren't super athletic that are better than this defensively. And I don't have the answers here, but it's not close to what Purdue needs. Last season, Purdue was in a similar spot, though, and Purdue did find some answers in the NCAA tournament. Purdue held its own against two good mid-majors in the first and second round, and then against Houston, Purdue gave itself a chance to win on the defensive end. It did. It got enough stops, and if that push-off on Braden Smith gets called, then maybe Purdue goes down and scores and goes to the Elite Eight with the chance to go to the Final Four. I don't know. But Purdue has to find some sort of renaissance there on the defensive end here immediately. We're less than 2 weeks away between Selection Sunday and now. It is the best time of the year if you're a college basketball fan. And away from the podcast, I'm staying busy by quoting insurance coverages for everyone across Indiana. I'm trying to quote as many people as possible before the madness begins. Let's make sure you're properly protected. I'm an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, and I'm here to help you. From home and auto to life and commercial insurance, I can do it all. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me, jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. Let's see if we can help you save some money for Purdue's run in the big dance. We're into the final week of the regular season here. It is unbelievable that we're already here. It's crazy how fast time goes, but one last week, Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. tip-off at Northwestern. The Wildcats do come in winners of 3 straight. Look at them. They're 13-16, 5-13 in Big Ten play. Northwestern is just 3-15 in the first 2 quadrants. This will obviously be a quad 1 game for Northwestern, and it will be a quad 1 game for Purdue. Northwestern was 72nd in the net on Sunday, so it's a quad 1 opportunity for Purdue. Now, if Purdue wins, maybe it's not a quad 1 game anymore. That's just kind of the way it goes, kind of the way the quadrant system goes. But it's Nick Martinelli early and often for Northwestern. He was the Big Ten leading scorer last year. He is the Big Ten leading scorer again this year. He's a good player. He took over the end of the game when they went down to Indiana last week and won. He hit the game winner against Oregon on Saturday. You just have to force him to be inefficient, right? That's easier said than done. He's a capable three-point shooter, but not a super high-volume three-point shooter. He's crafty. He's a good mid-range guy. He's a really good basketball player. And he's kind of the type of player that when he's going to be playing in the YMCA league when he's 40, he's going to be just as dominant because he's so crafty. He's so good at getting to spots. He's really effective. Northwestern doesn't shoot many threes, though, and when it does, it's not particularly effective. That's probably what you want to see if you're Purdue, a game to get right a little bit and really focus on not letting Northwestern get into the lane. It's easier said than done, but Purdue's got to find a way there. This is a pretty limited Northwestern team. There is no reason why Purdue should lose this game. It is a team that Purdue should frankly blow out. It's not a very good Northwestern team. At this point, though, I have no idea. And then Purdue closes with Wisconsin on Senior Day, a team that you blew out in Madison, a game that Purdue won by 16, and for most of the second half, it wasn't that close. Purdue dominated that. And it's a very different look than what Purdue will get on Wednesday night in Evanston. Wisconsin shoots a ton of threes. It does so effectively. John Blackwell and Nick Boyd are really dangerous. They've got some bigger guys that can step out and shoot on you. Wisconsin has wins over Illinois, Michigan, and Michigan State. No one else can say that. That is an incredible resume Wisconsin has there a little bit. It's 12-6 in league play. It's had a really nice year. Greg Gard does a really nice job there. That's a solid program. It's going to be a challenge for Purdue. Until proven otherwise, I think about everything will be a challenge, but this one is no different. It's going to be quite the mixed emotions of a senior day. On one hand, this group has been around for a great deal of success. 2 Big Ten regular season titles, a Big Ten tournament title, 2 number 1 seeds, a trip to the Final Four, a trip to the Sweet 16, being ranked number 1 3 of the last 4 seasons. All of these are reasons why Matt Painter cited after the Ohio State game that everything can get turned around. And he's right. He's right about that. In this team is that group that's able to turn this around, that's able to play basketball at a really high level. But it's also a group that, really is fading down the stretch here, is fading, and, perceptionally, just from afar, it kind of looks like it's a group that's, reached its conclusion. That's just kind of ready to be done. I don't want to say that. Not ready to be done, but a group that's just kind of run its course, and maybe I'm wrong. Purdue certainly hopes that it's wrong here, but I don't know if Braden Smith's jersey is going to go up in the rafters after his senior speech or not. I don't know, but you've just seen this season wear on a lot of people. I've gotten more and more texts from folks that, aren't normally the panic, freak out, fire everybody fans that are just kind of saying, man, I'm just done. I'm just exhausted. And it's going to be a little bit interesting of a senior day there, on a day that really, when you looked at the calendar at the start of the year, you didn't expect it to be that way. I will add, though, anything is possible. Purdue is capable of getting into the NCAA tournament and going on a run and making this all go away to a degree. It doesn't feel like it's super likely right now, but it is within the realm of possibility. This team has won a ton of basketball games. Crazier things have happened. I go back to 2019 when Purdue gets a share of the Big Ten title, but in the last week of the season, it goes to Minnesota and loses to a mediocre Minnesota team. And then it goes into the Big Ten tournament, loses in the first round on Friday night to Minnesota. And you're just thinking, man, I don't know. Carson Edwards was really in a slump down the stretch. I think he was dealing with an injury, if I remember right. And then in the NCAA tournament, he goes nuclear, gets Purdue within a prayer of the Final Four, and it all goes away, right? No one remembers how that February went when things weren't going super well, when Purdue was having to really grind out games, and did so, but it wasn't pretty. Last year, I look back to last year, and Michigan looked like it was dead at the end of the regular season. I remember Michigan getting handled by Michigan State, and I wondered to myself if Michigan had won its last game of the year, if it was going to just get bounced in the Big Ten tournament, bounced in the NCAA tournament, because it really wasn't playing well down the stretch. And then it went on and won the Big Ten tournament and made it to the Sweet 16. This can happen. It's a funny sport. It really is. And when it's all single elimination after this week, truly anything can happen. But Purdue would love to find some semblance of momentum going into tournament play here, and it gets 2 opportunities to do so. As we kind of look at these brackets, first off, for the Big Ten tournament, Purdue looks destined for the 5 or 6 seed, probably dependent on whether it beats Wisconsin or not. the 5 seed is the overwhelmingly likely candidate. And if Purdue wins both of these games this week, it's going to be the 4 or the 5. It would need a ton of help to get that triple bye and get to the 4 spot. I had a question about the Big Ten tournament, and it's how much it matters and how much it should matter. And, I'll say this. Inherently, the Big Ten tournament isn't something that means a great deal, right? And you hear Matt Painter talk about this, the Big Ten regular season title is what matters. And I do believe the Big Ten regular season title means quite a bit. It's a 20-game league schedule. It is a little bit trickier now with how unbalanced the schedules are, with going out to the West Coast, with protected rivalries for a few teams, with such disparity in home road splits. It's harder now than ever to really feel like you have a great grasp on it. Obviously, Michigan has taken it and run this year. That's obvious. But, the Big Ten tournament can be fun. It's a great event for fans. And for Purdue, yeah, it matters. I mean, when you're in this spot Purdue is in, you want any momentum you can get. And regardless of how this week goes, and we'll do a full Big Ten tournament preview on the show next week, regardless of how this week goes, you want the opportunity to win something. Winning something is better than not winning anything. And Purdue didn't get the first thing done. It didn't win the Big Ten regular season. And now it's going to try to do that. It's going to try to win the Big Ten tournament. It's easier said than done, but if you have the opportunity to go win something, you absolutely want to do it. Nothing is guaranteed for you in the NCAA tournament. So while I love the whole, go play a game or two and rest up for the NCAA tournament, well, great, but it may not help you. It may not. I don't know if there's a great science on whether you want to win your conference tournament or not. But I think anytime you have the chance to win something, you want to do it, especially when you missed out on the Big Ten regular season title, and especially when you're kind of where Purdue's at right now, where it just all feels disappointing. If you can go to Chicago and you can play well and you can build that momentum and give your team something to feel good about, give your fans a good memory, and then go into the NCAA tournament with real, legitimate reason for confidence, I think that's a big deal. Speaking of the NCAA tournament, I think Purdue is a 3 seed all around right now. I'm not sure I've seen anywhere have Purdue on the 2 line anymore after the loss to Ohio State. I'm not sure I've seen anywhere drop Purdue to the 4 line. I'll say this much. If Purdue can win these 2 games this week, and then if Purdue can win, we'll say Purdue's the 5 seed, win that game against the 12 or 13, and get yourself against the 4 seed, which would be one of those top 4 teams, would be against Illinois, Michigan State, or Nebraska. I think you're probably good to a 3 there. If you can win that, maybe you can claw your way back to a 2 if you go on a run in the Big Ten tournament, maybe. But I think a 3 seed is probably the most likely outcome here. But, man, if you start losing games this week, or you go home early in the Big Ten tournament, you're letting other teams get a lot of Quadrant 1 win opportunities when you're sitting back in West Lafayette waiting for 6 p.m. on Sunday. So there's still a lot on the line here. It's obviously been a really underwhelming month and a half for Purdue here, dating back to that trip out west, but there's still basketball to be played. This is the month where great things happen, where awful things happen, and you just never know which it's going to be. So that's all I've got today, guys. I'm sorry. Some of this stuff I'm just as confused as you are, but that's what I've got for this week. We'll be back next week to preview the Big Ten tournament, to talk about the week that was, put a cap on the regular season, and look ahead. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss it. Follow the show on Twitter at Boilers Beyond. Send me questions, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com, or DM me on Twitter there at Boilers Beyond. Enjoy the games this week, guys. Take care, and we'll talk to you next week.